We're going to talk about just one thing today, and that is loyalty. We're going to talk about loyalty, okay? An exciting and inspiring word, loyalty. We're all familiar with loyalty, right? Anybody got any loyalty cards in their wallet? You know, when you go and you get it stamped, if you have a certain number of coffees in a certain coffee shop, you probably have a loyalty card somewhere. You probably have a loyalty account somewhere. You probably have more than one loyalty card. We are in a world where, you know, if they've got the best price, the best pitch, the best promise, then they get our business. So we hop between different providers and different resources and different businesses to feed us and to clothe us and to serve all of our needs based on who can offer the best price, who can offer the best skill set to what I need. And that's fine, because that's, you know, that's just how we dress and how we live and how we eat. That's the nature of life. But the problem is that mindset pushes over then into some of the places where loyalty should be non-negotiable, where it's not about jumping to the best price. It's not about jumping to the best promise and the best offer and the things that I want to hear and the things that tickle my ears. Loyalty in the church means something very, very different. And I think what we've begun to do in our society as a result of our culture is we've begun to tell ourselves these little kind of, we reason away our lack of loyalty sometimes. We rationalize it. We rationalize the things that we are less than loyal in. Or sometimes we justify the fact that we want to make our own decisions and we're our own people and we want to be independent and we don't want to just follow the crowd, whatever it is. We rationalize. So I want to talk today, I want to ask you an important question, which is, where do your loyalties lie? Where do your loyalties and the things that you tell yourself to justify, you know, I can jump around, I can taste a bit of this and a bit of that. When it comes to your spiritual life, there's some lies that we're telling ourselves. Where do your loyalties lie to you? Because there's a greater measure of loyalty that we should all be living to. There's a greater portion that we should all be stepping up to. And sometimes we just tell ourselves these little half-measured truths in order to justify maybe just taking a night off one week, maybe just taking it easy when it comes to our groups one time. Maybe we justify what is essentially, at its core, a rotting loyalty. I want to just, introduce Ruth to you and encourage you to go and take a look at Ruth. The way that we are picking up this story is we're going to see what happens to Ruth when she goes on a very important journey. And the context is that a woman called Naomi and her husband and her two sons, they are from the land of Judah, okay? They're from Israel, which is God's promised land. But a famine sets into their land, and they decide to go away from the promised land. They decide to stray outside of where they're called to, and they go and find food elsewhere. This husband and wife and their two boys, they go into a neighboring land called Moab, and they go and build their lives there. And there are a few things that the Bible really urges that generation of God followers to do, and one of them is marry your people. Marry the people who believe the same thing as you. Stay true, stay loyal to the teaching that I'm asking of you. But Naomi's two sons marry local women. They marry Moabite women, okay? And Moabite women worship a different God. And they have different laws and practices and cultures. So this is the scenario that Ruth finds herself in. She is married to one of these young men, one of these sons, who's traveled into her land. And they live together and are married for 10 years. But then disaster strikes this family, tragedy strikes this family, and first of all, the father, Naomi's husband, dies. I've got some visuals so that you don't get confused about all the names, okay? First of all, Naomi's husband dies, but tragically then, later on, both of Naomi's sons die. So you've got these three widows who are not sure what to do next. And in that time, being a widow, it would have been the most disadvantageous situation you could find yourself in, okay? Because if you don't have a husband to provide for you, to look after you, then you're in trouble. Really, it falls to the family, it falls to the wider family to support you, to feed you, to help you, to protect you in this environment. Naomi's a widow, and now her two daughters are widows too. Not just widows, but childless widows. It doesn't get much worse in this time, in this land, okay? So we're basically entering a tragedy, and these women are faced with a decision. So let's take a look at what happens in this book of Ruth. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of the people in providing food for them back in her home country, because good report always travels fast, especially about food, but about all things. She and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she'd been living, and she set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. It's time for her to go home. It's time for Naomi to go back to the people that will look after her. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home, okay? There's nothing for you where I'm going. May the Lord show you kindness if you've shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." And then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept out loud. And they said to her, "We'll go back with you to your people." You know, there's this confession of, I'm with you. I'll stay with you. I'll cry with you. This isn't just a throwaway comment. This is a commitment and a dedication. But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? I don't have anything. I have anything to offer you. Am I going to have any more sons that could be your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and gave birth to sons, are you going to wait until they grow up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me." And at this, they wept out loud. What we've got here is we've got this display and this demonstration of loyalty from Orpah and from Ruth, these 2 daughters-in-law. "We'll come with you. We won't leave you. We'll journey with you back into your land. We'll cry with you. We'll mourn this thing together, and we'll stay by your side." And it looks like there's going to be these 2 committed, loyal partners and co-workers and people that Naomi can rely on. But what happens for Orpah, who very quickly fades out of the story after this, is she started with great intention. She's saying all the right words. And we can always say, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at everything. I'm going to start well. And we start well, but that's not loyalty. Because loyalty is measured at the end rather than at the beginning. Loyalty is measured at the end. And I have to tell you that it's awesome to have loyal intentions right now. But give yourself some time. Track the journey of loyalty. Loyalty is not a snap decision that we can all step into today in this place and walk out loyal people. There's a testing of time with loyalty, okay? It's not about who's with you at the beginning of the journey. It's about who's with you at the end of the journey. That's what loyalty does. It says, I'm clinging to you. Because what it says is God cares where you end up. He doesn't care where you started. He's not worried about what's already gone wrong in your life. He cares about where you end up. So you have every opportunity to get on a loyal path and follow its course. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter where you were last year, last week. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods, and you can go back with her. So we've got this turning around. Orpah, she tried to start on the journey, but ultimately she turned back. Orpah actually, fun fact, thanks. Orpah actually means nape of the neck. So she turned around and she left. I love these little bits in the Bible. You're like, oh, God, it's like you planned it all. It's amazing. So Orpah, she starts on the journey. But here's another thing that I've learned about loyalty, is loyalty often, disloyalty can often look for agreement. Let's just think about some of the ways that we are loyal or disloyal in our words, in our thoughts, in our opinions sometimes that we share. We can be loyal or disloyal. And out of these 3 women, the 2 that had the most in common are Ruth and Orpah, okay? Ruth, who's going forward, and Orpah, who turned back. They got the most in common. They have the same culture. They have the same gods. They have the same understanding. They have the same background. If anybody is going to be comfortable to follow, it's surely going to be Orpah. If you're Ruth, who this book is written all about, it's going to be more comfortable to go back home, where you know how everything goes. But for Ruth, She's not just looking for agreement. She's not just looking for people who think the same as her and speak the same as her and believe the same as her, because loyalty always looks for accountability. And this is something that I really believe as a church we've got to understand more. When you are confused about something, when you are in the church and not sure about a decision that's been made, or when you're following a leader and you disagree with them, the most tempting thing to do is to look for agreement. Who can I tell about this issue that I have? Who can I talk to about this? Who's going to say, yeah, I thought that too. I agree with that. Thanks for sharing. Let's pray about it together. We look for agreement because it's so much more comfortable. But loyalty looks for accountability. Here's the big commitment of loyalty. Ruth replied to Naomi, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay, and your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. Naomi, in this moment, has said, I'm going home, and I don't have anything for you. And Ruth makes a new commitment. And predominantly, the most important thing that she does here is she makes a commitment for God. She makes a declaration for God. Sometimes we think when it comes to our faith, it's okay to be neutral. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to alienate anybody. I don't want to, tread on any toes, or I don't want to disturb anybody else's feelings. They already have their methods and their ways. So I'm going to be the believer that prays. I'm going to be the believer that shares. I'm going to be the believer that invites. But I'll just remain neutral on some of the things that I disagree with when it comes to our faiths. And Ruth knows, and loyalty knows where it stands. Ruth makes a commitment for God, Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament, the creator of heaven and earth. That's the biggest change that she has ever or will ever experience. But in that moment, when she finds a new God, she finds new priorities. And when we find new God, when we find new life in our God, we find new priorities, and they hit in immediately. Immediately. We find new priorities when we follow God. When we have new priorities, we have new loyalties. Your new priorities in the way that you live, the way that you want to act, the way that you want to follow Jesus, the way that the Bible shows you is the best way to live, that's going to mess up your priorities. It really is, but it's not okay to remain neutral anymore. We have to know where we stand. And when we know where we stand and our priorities get lined up with God, we have new loyalties. That means the loyalty to serving one another, the loyalty to sharing our faith, the loyalty to giving financially into God's house, the loyalty to championing the vision and encouraging one another in it, the loyalty to do whatever it takes for what God has planned for his people. It's new loyalties. But also, new loyalties mean new leaders. And we need to commit that when we find new loyalties in following God, we find new leadership in our lives. We find new voices of leadership. Where we were before following other voices in our lives, the people who maybe believed what we used to believe, the people who influenced us in the way that we used to live. When you find a new God and new priorities and new loyalties, you find new leaders. And that's where this loyalty message comes alive, is we need to display the loyalty to the leadership that are leading us in the direction we need to go. Ruth said, I'm going with you. Here's another thing. Sometimes we tell ourselves, I'll respond when I'm asked. You can call on me and I will be there. That's great. It is great. That's more than some people say. To have people on the end of the phone when you need them is phenomenal. It's a blessing. And I think in the community of our church, it's a powerful, powerful thing. I have been on the receiving end many, many times of people who've said, I'm here for you. If you need anything, if I can help you. And it's awesome. But loyalty is offered. Loyalty is offered, not requested or not asked for. It's offered. It's a posture of the heart that is offered. And so Naomi says, go back home, go back to your people, go back to your God. But Ruth offers her loyalty. Naomi's not saying, I need someone to carry my bags, and I need a friend to talk to on the journey, and who's going to get my water. She says, I'm going to do this on my own, but loyalty is offered to her through Ruth's heart. Let's take it forward now, because they enter this land of Moab, and Ruth begins to serve. She just begins to go out and glean wheat from the fields where the workers are working and go and do anything that she can to start to feed herself and her mother-in-law, who is this leader that she's following in her life. And she, in Ruth 2, has this interaction that is God-ordained with someone who is going to be a big part of her journey. His name is Boaz. So she's out there, she's working, she's made a loyal commitment, she's doing what she knows to do, she's putting her hands to work. And in Ruth 2 it says this, just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. The Lord be with you. The Lord bless you, they answered. Boaz asked his overseer of his harvesters, who does that young woman belong to? And the overseer said, she's the Moabite that came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind those harvesters. She came into the field and she's remained here from morning until now, except for a short rest in the shelter. Fair dues. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I've told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you're thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars that the men have filled. At this, she bowed down to him with her face to the ground, and she said, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you would notice me? I'm a foreigner. You know, if there's just, again, I'm so moved by the context of this, because if there's anything worse than being a widow, and a childless widow, it's being a foreign childless widow, you know. Naomi had to move back to Bethlehem to be near her family. Family was all Ruth had in Moab, and she sacrificed it to follow where Naomi was going. Because when you find what God is calling you to, there are elements of family commitment. There are elements of old ties, and there are elements of things that, while they remain in your heart, they're not the direction you're following. They're not the direction you're following. So she said, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you would notice me? And Boaz replied, I've been told all about what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland, and you came to live with a people that you didn't know before. May the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you've come to take refuge. Her reputation had gone before her. Her reputation as a loyal woman had gone before her. And loyalty speaks a powerful voice. It speaks a powerful truth about who we are and where we stand. Her loyalty had gone before her. So sometimes we tell ourselves, I'll be loyal to those who are loyal to me. I will return loyalty like a favor. When people love me, I will love them back. And that's the beginnings of love, but it's not the depth of maturity of love that we're called to as Christians. You know, my kids love me. I know it. My youngest son is 6 months old. He smiles. He reaches to me. He's just cute and dribbly, and I know that he loves me. I don't doubt it. But it's because I fulfill a role in his life at this stage. He's not at the age yet where he can love me unconditionally. I am the one most predominantly who is caring for him, who's feeding him, who is providing for him. So he loves me in return. And sometimes we use that same justification with loyalty. If people show me good service, if people show me good environment to be in, or if people, champion my causes or are alongside me in what I'm doing, I will offer to them loyalty in return. But loyalty always goes first and attracts loyalty in return. If you live in loyalty, if you live your life with uncompromising loyalty, you'll be amazed at the loyal people that you will find flock to your life. Ruth made a loyal decision, and Boaz noticed it. Naomi said, this isn't just any man. God has brought you to the right man, and I've got some advice for you. Here's what you need to go and do. She said, when he lies down, take note of the place where he's lying, and then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor, and she did everything her mother-in-law told her to. But here's what else we learn about loyalty. We tell ourselves we should question everything. How does this sit with me? I'm going to weigh that up because I don't want to follow mindlessly. I don't want to be like a sheep here, just saying yes to everything. Let me see if I have peace about this. Let me see if I have a sense of whether this is right or wrong. That's what we tell ourselves when it comes to loyalty. Do I agree? Essentially, do I agree with what I'm being asked? But loyalty trusts the heart of their leader. Even if they can't always understand the words and the commands and the direction, they trust the heart. And I just urge you, Freedom Church, if you know your leaders and if you know their heart, they will be easy to follow. If you are remaining distant from them, or if you are mistrusting their heart, they will be very challenging to follow. I'm not saying we shouldn't make decisions for ourselves, okay? I'm not saying we don't have a brain and a mind and discernment and all of the things that we need. But what I am saying is we sometimes neglect the effort of knowing a leader's heart, and we just rely on our own decisions instead. Make the effort to go and learn the heart of the people that you're following. Go and learn the heart of those who are asking things of you that seem unusual or seem out of the ordinary. Go and learn their heart, because I promise you, once you know their heart, it'll be easier to say yes to their directions. So she's told to go and lie on the floor. When Boaz finished eating and drinking and he was in good spirits, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man. Cold feet, okay? It's cold feet. That's the style of the man. You got cold feet. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. Who are you? He asked. It's a fair question. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. The Lord bless you, my daughter, he replied. This kindness is greater than that which you showed me earlier. You haven't run after the younger men, the rich men, the poor men, the good-looking men, the men your age. You haven't gone for what seems like the short-term attractive option here. You haven't poured yourself into what your preference would be. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all that you ask. All the people of my town know that you're a woman of noble character. Where is the nobility? Where is the nobility in Ruth's life? It's her loyalty. And instead of getting personal gains, loyalty sees the big picture. Loyalty sees this is about more than just what I can get in this season. It's about more than just, what serves me in this time. Loyalty sees the big picture. And Ruth's talking about her family. She's talking about her mother-in-law and their mother-in-law's name and respect and provision. But for us, this looks like the church. This looks like what's a personal gain and where's the big picture? The big picture is connecting anyone anywhere to a life-changing relationship with Jesus. And sometimes that means us sidestepping some of the things that could benefit us personally because we're committed to the big picture. It's beyond what I want, what I need, what I prefer, and into what God is doing and what I get to be a part of. We also tell ourselves that loyalty is a private thing. I know who I follow. I know I have a good attitude in my heart towards my church, towards my leadership, towards my husband or wife, towards my family, wherever the areas of your life are that require loyalty. Sometimes we think, well, that's a private thing. That's between me and them, or that's between me and God. And as long as he knows my heart, that's great. But the truth is that loyalty is seen, it's noticed, and also it's rewarded. It's a public thing. It's a public declaration. Being loyal to someone is public. That's why we get married, okay? That's why we get married. It's not just about changing the law and legally being kind of connected in some way. It's about stating in front of everybody, I'm loyal to this person. I want to be loyal. But that goes for every area of our loyalty. It's public. It's not just a private and personal thing. And we need to be more bold in that and more confident in that. But let's wrap up this story and see what happens. Ruth has met Boaz. She's found herself connected in an amazing way to this man who is committed as the guardian redeemer. The woman said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous through Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to a new generation in your family." And they got married, they had a child, and there's this whole new generation that starts. Naomi took her grandchild in her arms, and she cared for him. And the women there living there said, Naomi has a son. And they named him Obed, and he was the father of Jesse, who was the father of David. There's this whole new thing. that God does through loyalty, a brand new thing that God does through loyal decisions. You know, I said that in Judges it was chaos and turmoil and anarchy and everybody was abandoning their God. And then we zoom in on one woman who chooses God and chooses to follow committedly her God and makes her loyalties change in response to that decision. And from there is born this king who's going to unite Israel once again. This king who's going to get on the throne and actually see it go from the time of Judges to the time of Samuel, where he starts to take control of the kingdom again. He points people's eyes back to God again. But it all starts when we zoom in on this story of Ruth and the great reward that comes through following the promise, through being loyal to what God is asking you to do. Guys, loyalty isn't always the easy option, but it is always, always the rewarded option in our lives. You know, we lean into personal preference, but loyalty builds legacy. Your loyalty builds legacy for the people coming after you, for the generations to follow. I've been a part of this church for 16 years. I actually thought maybe you'd like to see a picture of what we all looked like 16 years ago. I mean, there were other people in the church, but I thought that was funny because it just looks like we've all gone out to play with some boats, look. But I've been in this church 16 years, but I know that I've learned all these lessons the wrong way. And the reason why I share this message and why it means so much to me, I think, is because I'm on a journey of learning loyalty, as we all are. We're all on a journey. You know, when I was 16 years old, playing boats by the river, good times, and I came along to this church, there was a lot that I didn't understand. There have been days when I haven't felt like being, I don't know, a positive influence, or I haven't felt like I agree and understand everything, and so therefore I'm going to go along with it. There have been times, you know, we can look at marriage, we can look at church life, we can look at the relationships that we're in our lives, and we can all understand that sometimes you feel like it and sometimes you don't feel like displaying love or honor. But I made a commitment. You will find me here. You will find me on this front row, and you will find me supporting what is going on. And I've had to lessen the gap between do I feel like it and am I going to do it? I knew God before I came to this church, okay? I knew Jesus, but I had never seen faith like this. And I'd never seen people who did what they said they were going to do like this, who lived out the promises of the Bible like this. I'd never seen it. I'd never seen this example. And so I was fascinated by it. And I was like, even if I don't get it, even if I can't get my head around it, I'm going to be there because I don't want to miss out on that. Show yourselves loyal. Offer it. Don't wait for it to be asked. Vocalize it. Don't just think it. Give it freely, because that's what loyalty is.